Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 14 of Crafting for Pleasure. So today we are going to work on the bowl that we did the base of the other day. I don't remember what week that was, but if you go back a few weeks, you'll see making a fabric bowl if you want to know how we made this base. So when we did the base, I did say that I thought I was going to put our hexies on there, and so I did do that. I attached the point all the way around, and I did say then I wasn't sure if it would fit. It doesn't quite fit, so I will have to fill this in somehow. And also we talked about possibly making the same bowl out of just a solid piece of colored fabric for the inside, and I did that. I took my plate and I drew it around this pretty yellow fabric, and I made it about a half an inch or so bigger. I should have made it a little bit more bigger, like maybe an inch or an inch and a half bigger, because you can always trim a little off, but you can't add any more on. So this bowl, I cut it around the plate just like normal, folded it, cut the slits, sewed it together exactly the same way that we did the white base. And then I put it over, I sewed it up exactly the same way, and then I put it over top of the white bowl and stitched around the edge and then turned it this way. And then I folded it down and tacked it down here. And so this is why I wished I would have made it a little bit bigger than the plate. I did it like a half an inch bigger than the plate, and I was wishing I did it maybe an inch or an inch and a half, because I would have liked to have a little bit more yellow here, because there are a few spots where it's not quite this one here. Like, see, it's not quite, the yellow didn't come down quite far enough to cover the white. So, and we can put an embellishment on that. This one here, before I sewed my hexies down, I put a little piece of yellow lace in there. And so I didn't think about it when I had sewn these down. So, but it worked really well. So I just basically made the base, and then I made the exact same base out of cotton fabric for my lining and made it just a little bit bigger when I drew around the plate. So, and then I sewed it exactly the same way to sew it together to make it a bowl shape, and then placed it over top. So, and now I like this. I do like the solid inside, and I really didn't want to take all the time to like do all of the different fabrics on the inside, since it's going to get all covered. I still haven't finished the inside of my little bowl. But yes, I didn't want to do all of this work on the inside of the bowl just to have it covered. Because look, this, you put something in it and it does not, you don't see the inside. Like, I still haven't finished the inside of this. Still haven't decided if I'm going to. But in these, I was making flowers the other day. Sonia Steptoe, on her channel, was making flowers for embellishments, and I thought they might be cute to put on the outside of this bowl. But then when I got them done, I thought that they were a little too bulky for what I wanted, and I really did want to put the hexies on there. So, but I had fun making those. So, if you go look at Sonia's channel, if you want to know how to make them, she'll show you how to make them. Years ago, that was the whole rage, was everybody was making flowers. And that's what happens with crafting. Everybody goes from one thing to another, but eventually you kind of come back to some of the things that you've already done, especially if you enjoyed them. Making the flowers is really fun. I never could really figure out exactly what to do with them. A lot of people use them for like hair ties and stuff like that, which would be really cute. It was just not something that I really did. So, but yeah, they're a blast to make, and they do make great decorations for different things. They'd be nice on the front of a journal cover too. So, but I did want to put them on the inside of the bowl, because on the inside of the bowl, if you put stuff in there, it could get caught like underneath the flowers, and so I decided not to use those right away, but I had a good time making them. So I attached the hexies, and then I put a button on the middle of each one. And so I thought I would show you, and I do have some needles already threaded and kind of ready to go for what we're going to do today, because next weekend I have a craft show, and so I'm trying to get it, maybe hopefully at least 2 videos done so that you get one week after next. So what I did to start with was, with all of my hexies, because when we did the hexies, all we did was put just a little bit of glue on the center because we didn't know what we were going to do with them. So before I actually put the button on, I just went where the button would go, and I just went in and out on all the different little sections and just kind of sewed them together a little bit so that they wouldn't come, because, you know, the glue wasn't there to hold them forever. It was there to hold them until we decided what we were going to do with them. And so I'm just going to go around and just kind of just put some stitches just to hold it where it's supposed to be. Now you can actually go with each one of the folds and you could do some embroidery stitches on there, and that would be really pretty. I might do that at some later date. It just depends on what kind of time you want to spend on one project. I tend to like start 2 or 3 at all at one time, so a lot of times I don't get finished, or I don't go do something I thought I might want to do to it for sometimes even for a couple years or something. So once I get that sewed around a little bit there in the center, then I just go ahead and, oh, I'm holding that there, just sew the button on. So, and I just decide where I want it, and then you want to let your button move. Don't try and hold it there. You can go all the way through. I don't want to go through to my yellow side. I want to just catch my base. So I am just going to, whoop. Okay. Again, I am the best sewer. Just watch me. So go through the hole, catch a little bit of the fabric. It's okay that the button folds back, and just try and keep your stitch. Oh, now see, that was really smart. Where'd the button go? Okay, so when you sew on a button, I will give you a tip. You go ahead and you put your needle through one hole, and then to sew it on, then you put your needle through the other hole. Don't put it through the same hole or it will fall off. So let's see if that works. Oh, look at that. See, that works. Okay, so then, you know, I just went ahead and then I'm going to come over to the other side and catch that hole again. And you don't want to go back to, up through the same hole. You can, but like I usually just go from one side back to the other. And you can also go, like if you want to catch one of the other pieces of fabric, you can put it through that hole and go sideways. You don't have to go that way. Nobody, you know, your thread only shows here. So, and then I could maybe come from this piece over here and go up through this hole over here, just to catch down some of that underside even more. Maybe come down and go out over here, just like that. So you get it till it's all sewed on, which that's sewed on just fine. So now I'm just going to go under the button to put my knot. And so I just put it through. When you get down to a loop, you put your needle through the loop and pull it tight. And if your thread gets really super short and you really can't like turn your needle around, which I can here, but if you can't turn it around to get the front of your needle through, take the back of your needle and just put it through that loop and then pull it. Because if it's really short, you can actually still get a knot in there doing it that way. Unless it's super, super short. And then I just stick it through to somewhere else and cut it off. I don't usually cut right next to my knot. I usually put it through my fabric, come out somewhere else, and then do that so that I'm not cutting my knot. And so that's how I got all of my little buttons on there. And like I said, I may come back and just go ahead and do some stitching on each of those, because that would look really nice, especially in a contrasting color. But I do like the way that those turned out. But the thing is that now I've got this big white part here. And my bottom is here, so that does show. So I was trying to figure out what I want to do with that, and I just did not know what I wanted to do. So I'm going to try something. Never tried it before. It might work. It might not. So we'll see. So I'm going to try and do the way that you do, okay, I have just a piece of this kind of crochet thread, and just put a knot in it. I don't want a bunch sticking out after the end of my knot, so I'll cut that off. There we go. Make sure my knot's still good. I'm going to try and do like a weaving and see how that works. I have no idea how this is going to work, and I'm not even sure. I've tried to think it through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start somewhere where maybe I want to hide my knot down in here somewhere. Let me find one of these that seems to have a little bit, oh, there's a dog here. There, okay, there's a little opening there. So I'm just going to put my needle under there and just kind of catch the white stuff. And then, let me see. How do I want to do this? I'm going to come up out of here. Yeah. Do I need one up here? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to come up at this point. I'm going to go under here. No, that's too hard to try and make that corner, so I'm going to come right down to here. It might make sense in a few minutes, but it may not make sense because it may not work. Okay, I didn't really want to catch my inside, but if I do, I used a color that's not going to be too in your face, like, oh, look at, there's a big, huge stitch. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to put this two right here. So I've got something to weave under. I'm going to weave underneath this piece of cotton. Okay, so then I want to go down here, and then I want to come up at the point and go down here. So I'm going to go into the white. Okay, come up here to right where my point is. Yes or no? I think so. Okay, and I'm going to come back out right at this point. Okay, so I've got this stitch here. So now I want the same size stitch up here, because I'm kind of planning on weaving like from down here to up there to down there to up there. That's going to be my plan. And I glued this bottom to my white part, so I'm kind of having a hard time getting through there to get to where I want to go. All right, so I'm just going to catch it here. Okay, so I've got this stitch here and this stitch here. Those are the stitches I'm using. I really want to go. Okay, we're going to start this all over again. And this is what happens sometimes when you think something's going to work. Sometimes you just have to think it through a little bit differently. I'm going to go all the way through. And so there's going to be some stitches here on the bottom, and that's okay. If I don't like the way they look, I'll figure out a way to cover them up, because I thought I was going to go between the white and the yellow, and I forgot that I had glued it down, and it really, really is glued down well. So, alrighty, so I'm going to come, okay, I'm going to start. All right, I'm going to go through. I'm going to go right through to the other side, just like that. And then I'm going to come up at this valley and just make sure that I don't leave a huge wadded knot there. Okay, so always, I guess I need to make sure that I keep checking those. All right, so I'm going to come up here, tuck that in. I'm going to come up here to right about where my points are, just like that. And then I'm going to come out at this point here. And I'm going to make a stitch about that long here, so that when I'm weaving, I have the same amount of space to weave in, because it's going to be the same amount of yarn that I weave through here as here. So I need the space, the same amount of space. So we'll come out at the valley and go up to where the top of the mountain is. Whoop. One thing about sewing on buttons is they like to catch your thread too, just like needles. Alrighty. I have to figure out, there we go, which one is the loose end and make that shorter. Okay, now I need to also make sure that this doesn't get too tight. There we go. So, and I might have to do something with those threads later. We'll see. Alrighty, so we went down there, and then we're going to come back out at the top of the mountain. And make that stitch about the same. And actually, if you're a weaver, you'll know that that's like either a warp or a weft or something like that. I'm not a weaver, so I don't know what that's called. But the thread that you weave in and out of has a name. Back up to about how tall the mountains are here. And then back out here. And so this will cover at least to the bottom of our bowl, and then it's going to actually come up this way a little bit too. But what you see on the sides will be completely covered, which is what I wanted. I didn't want the bowl to have, even though once it's sitting on your table, that's very close to the bottom, might not be very noticeable. I didn't want it to be that white backing. Okay, so coming up to about here. So we have 8 of the hexies there, but we're going to have 16 stitches, one for every point and one for between each of the where two of the hexies come together. So, and I don't really know how to put my videos together. I used to a long time ago. And then I lost that program. YouTube had its own program and it worked really well, but they took it away, and don't have it anymore. And then I did get used to another one, and then it got old. So then they opened a new one, and I haven't really figured it out. But the whole point is that by doing it this way, you get to see the mistakes. You get to see and I still don't know that this is going to work. So we're going to find out, and hopefully it does, but even if it doesn't, the video is going to go up so that, number one, you have video to watch, but number two, you can see what I did, and maybe you can figure out something that would work for you, and also that you'll know that sometimes you'll try something and it may or may not work. So I'm really thinking that this is going to work, but I am not positive. So we're going to find out. So this one, I still need to come back down to this same valley point, even though these two are not together. And then I do need to come up to about that same place like this. And then from there, I would go, let's see here, if there was a point here, but I don't know. Let me see. I am going to make this one the same distance. I'm going to put it between these two. So this one is just going to weave, it's just going to weave at the same amount. I could have started it up here and then went this way, like these ones do. But then that would leave this area. So I'm going to do that stitch that should be up top, I'm going to leave it down here with the others. And we'll see how that works. So there we go. We've only got a couple left to go here then. One more up here. And then I have a pretty multicolored yarn that I got at the Salvation Army. And so I'm going to use that for the weaving, because it will go with all of these colors. And before I knot this off, do have a few dog hairs here and there every once in a while, especially on something that's super fuzzy like that. And I'm going to tip it over and make sure that the inside looks okay before I put a knot in it. Okay. Because if I need to stretch these at all, I can. I think that they do look okay. All right, so I am actually going to knot it on the inside. One more time. I like to just hide part of it underneath the fabric. And then snip that off. There we go. Now, if I had thought about it, I actually could have cut a piece of cardboard to set inside of there so that when I'm weaving here, that would be really stiff. I didn't think about it, so we're just going to deal with it the way that it is now. Okay, so we've got from the point up. So all of our stitches are about the same length. They're not exactly the same, I can see right now, but that is what it is. So what I'm going to do is I just have this pretty yarn. I got the Salvation Army. It was $2.49, but I waited till green went 75% off. And so I got it for like 65 cents or something. So, and because I'm not missing, like I have lots of yarn. I don't have any like that, but, but the biggest thing is that like, if you don't 100% need it, if you can wait until it goes on sale, that's kind of a good thing to do. Okay, so the first thing is, okay, I threaded the yarn onto a blunt needle. I'm going to take it back out of there and so there's no point on here at all to catch anything. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it doubled because that'll be 2 pieces of yarn weaving at the same time, and it will be faster. So I'm going to stick one little side of this because it's doubled. Normally I would just tie a knot in the double, but I'm going to tie this together now that it's around one of our stitches. And I'm going to do that because that will hold it right there without having to try and stick my needle through the fabric, because that needle will not go through the fabric. So there. I just went ahead and tied a knot in those, but the stitch is already in there. And so make that really tight. I'm going to cut that off. These would work really good for the fabric balls. Look at that. That's really pretty. Or fabric beads. Alrighty, then I'm going to put that knot right down there. Alright, now here's where we're going to see if it may or may not work. This is the part I'm not sure about. Okay, so I am going to go under this one. And I'm not even sure if I'll be able to weave it under over. I don't think, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I don't think I will be able to. So that one is going to be stuck up there. And you're going to have to push it, like keep pushing it down If you use the back of your needle, even with this being a blunt needle, the back is even more blunt. So, but if you have a sharp needle, you can, just don't poke yourself, like wear a thimble, but you can turn it around and use the non-sharp side to weave, because it's just so much easier. If you use the point of a needle to weave and it catches your fabric, it just becomes a real pain. I'm going to take this and get it out of here. Alrighty. Oops, sorry about that. All right, so we're going to want to keep it where it all needs to be. And you know what? That came out. My knot came out. I cut it too short. Cut too close to the knot. So I'm going to have to knot it again. And I'm not going to cut it this time. I'll worry about tucking it later. I'll tuck it up under or something. All right, so let's tie around. Okay. Alrighty, and that's going to come up to here. Then this is going to go down to there. Yeah, it's not under over, because if I went over, like if I went over this one, it would just go straight across. If I went over this one, then it would just go straight over there. So it's not really a weaving. But so I'm going to go through this one. And when we get all the way around, that's when, what did I do? I got my needle kind of on the wrong side of my thread, so just kind of watching what you're doing. I'm going to hold this one down here so that I don't make it too short. And this yarn is very kind of bumpy, so it's really catching as I'm pulling it through, but there we go. If I wasn't trying to be in a hurry, it would be much easier. Alrighty, so I'm going to go right through here. And again, just make sure that I pull it down. Yeah, this would be easier if my yarn was not bumpy. It would be much easier. So that's a little tip right there. But by the looks of how it's filling in, it will only take about 3 times around, maybe even only 2, before it fills in this gap that we're trying to fill in. And it is kind of bumpy, fluffy yarn, so I need to stop trying to make it so tight. Did I? Oh no, it just got pulled over a little bit. I thought I missed this stitch right here. It's the one I'm working on right now. Maybe not trying to do 2 at one time would also help. Maybe just doing 1 thickness. But it's mostly the bumpiness of this yarn that is causing the problem. And that's okay. I'll work with that because I really want this fluffy yarn. So if I have to deal with it, then I just have to deal with it. And so I think that it will take a couple times around. But I think it is going to basically work. Seeing what it's going to do the second time around is kind of going to be the telltale whether it really works or not. And why I started all the way over there instead of right here, I have no idea. I probably should have started right there. But you craft and you learn. Everything kind of teaches you something. And watching other people teaches you different things. Like you may not want to deal with bumpy thread. So since those are all 3 straight, I'm going through all 3 at the same time. Whoops. And don't pull it too tight. See how those 3 stitches are like pulled together? I don't want them pulled together. There we go. And there is another way you actually could weave, which would be to, once you went under it, then you could go over it. So it would make a loop around your thread. And so that's another way that you could weave, and that would, but that would make like a spiral on that piece of thread after you've done it a few times. It would wrap that thread, which I really wasn't sure that I wanted that bulk on the bottom of my bowl. Would be pretty down the side of a bowl, though. Ooh, that would be pretty. Just do, oh yeah, do a bowl, and then do stitches from the top to the bottom of the bowl, and then go ahead and wrap your yarn like that. That I would like, I think. Alrighty, so second time around. Let's see what this does. And I do really love this yarn. I love the colors and everything of it, but it really is a pain. I definitely would not want to do this as a wrap. Maybe a different kind of a variegated one that's not got the little bumpies on it. Alrighty, so we've got 2 stitches there now. Do our second one over top of this one. Oh my, those little bumps really are a pain. And I think also that it may be getting a little wound up. I think that those bumps kind of make it like twist itself as you're pulling it through. So maybe it needs to like unwind a little bit. Nope, the needle doesn't seem to be twisting, so we've got it. And we're getting really close to time here. So, but we're going to go around this one more time, and I'll let you know, let's see what's going on. So next weekend I have a craft fair with my niece, and so I won't get a chance. I always make my videos on Saturday morning, and I make them on Saturday morning for the next week, because otherwise you wouldn't get them until maybe Sunday by the time they get uploaded onto YouTube, and then you have to do all the like wording editing and stuff like that. So I do them Saturday morning, then I upload them for the next Saturday morning. So next Saturday I won't be here, which that will be the Saturday that you're actually getting this video. So when you get this video, I will be at a craft fair, a Renaissance fair with my niece. And so if I can get another video done this weekend, I have learned I just can't do them during the week. When I come home from work during the week, I'm tired. Doing a video is just, I don't have the stamina to do that. So, hopefully I will get one done this weekend. Get another one done so that you'll have a video next weekend. If not, I may next weekend just try and do a short video that you will get on Sunday instead of Saturday. But yeah, so that is going to be very fun. And then the next weekend, our daughter's coming up to work on the property next door. So both of our girls have decided to move closer home. So our youngest daughter is actually moving to, we have 3 pieces of property here, my husband and I. And so our youngest daughter is going to move to the north side. And we're giving her that piece. And then we're giving our oldest daughter the piece on the south side of us. So we'll have a whole family here. Our oldest daughter has moved to St. Croix with her husband. But they were planning on coming back summers. So they're going to put a summer place next to us on the south side. So yeah, so that's kind of like very exciting. And we're very happy for that. So our children they're very grown. So, you know, they have both now been out on their own and far away, and now they've decided that they do want to actually come back home, which is pretty sweet. So, we're going to be quite busy this summer with things going on. With our youngest needs to get a place actually like completely in. And then our oldest, I think that they're going to build, but they may take their time. And then when they come back from St. Croix in the summers, they might stay with us for a bit and then stay with his parents for a bit while they're here. Until they actually get their place. And then they'll still, because his parents live a couple hours from us, they'll still go up and they'll stay here in their house when they get it done, and then go up and see his parents and that kind of stuff and stay with them probably for a bit. So, but yeah, so it's going to be a busy summer. And look, I didn't know if that was going to work, but you know what? It did. And now when you look at it from the side, that white's not going to show. And it needs to be adjusted a little here and there. And if I need to pull this up here and put a little stitch of thread through there to kind of hold it up there, you know, you can do that. It's, you know, everything doesn't have to be perfect just the way it is. You can always give it a little tack. It does look like in some of these spots, it's going to kind of like want to move its way this way. And I am going to put one more wrap around it, because that should really kind of fill most of the stitches. Some of these ones are a little bit still longer, but by the time you get 2 more pieces of the yarn through there, that's going to be pretty full. And the shorter ones, these ones are actually shorter, which I thought that I did them all about the same size, but not quite. So, but they're quite disappearing. So I'll just put this through till I run out, which I think I'll do this my last stitch here. And then I will tie this together. So I'm going to cut that like that. Just like I tied this one around the stitch, I'm going to pull one of these out. I'll take the blue one, pull that one out, and now I've got, this one is still under, this one is out, so I'll just tie those two together around that stitch so that it doesn't come undone. And that's really actually quite simple to do. And do 3 stitches, and then I will probably tuck it up under here. So just use, doesn't need to be that long, but my knot's there. I don't want it to be short like the other one came undone. So now that I've got that, I'll just push on the knot. And tuck that right up under there. And that works really, oh, I like that. I really do. That bumpy stuff. And, you know, if I wasn't making a video, it wouldn't have been as hard, because, you know, I could have like taken more time, but you always worry about, are you going to at least get done enough for everybody to see what you were trying to do, you know, before the video runs out. So, you know, maybe I would use this yarn again, because I really do like the way that that turned out. I'm just going to take this one and tuck it. I just turned that all the way around. I'm going to tuck this one right up under these threads. Or I guess I should say yarn. Like that. And there we go. And then just push the bottom ones right down to there. And again, yep, I think I might need to maybe take a stitch here or there just to get them to stay where I want them. But that is awesome. And I don't need to have the whole bottom of the bowl, of this bowl covered. I think I will do like one more set around. And I might do one more set like this, And then because the ones that came up here are still longer, I might do one set like this. And then the last set just go just on these so that it would just make a circle. And then maybe even put a colored piece of felt on there if I didn't want the white showing so that it didn't get dirty or something. But I think, yes, 2 more times around, once up and down just like we had done already, and once straight around. And then maybe I'll need to tack and maybe I won't. Well, you know, I'll have to see depending on if it gets tight enough. And then all I have to do is just figure out what to do with that, which very possibly I might even just weave some of this, like to put it there to cover that spot up, but maybe not. I'll have to figure that out when the time comes. But I like how this turned out. And so our bowl is coming along nicely. And then what am I going to do with the inside? Because I wish I had not glued that yellow to the white, but I did. So now I will figure out what I'm going to do about these. And I might just, these really long ones, I might just turn the bowl the other way and just kind of like couch them down a little bit with a really sharp small needle, because I think that will go through where it's glued, not too much of a problem. But just couch them down a little bit so that they're just not so, like the short ones, they're not going to really, things aren't going to get caught under them. But the long ones, where we went from the bottom side all the way up to the top, those ones just might kind of catch or something. So I might couch those down. Maybe I'll couch them down with yellow so it doesn't show. Maybe I'll couch them down with a color that does show. I don't know. So, but this is how you work on stuff. You do it when you want to, and then you just do it until you're happy with it. When I first did the yellow, I did a blanket stitch with light blue yarn all the way around. You can see it here too. I didn't like it. So then I took this fiber and I went through each of these stitches on the outside thinking that would help. It was okay. Oh no, I went under this stitch, and then I came over to this side and went under this stitch. And then I did that back and forth and back and forth. And it was only okay. So then I took the same stuff and I wove it around the top of the blanket stitch. And that was better, but it was still missing a little bit on the inside. And so then on the inside, I went ahead and went under each of the stitches. I went under the stitch this way and then around to here. Then I went under that stitch this way and around. What I was telling you, you could do like with these stitches where you can go around them. So yeah, so I wrapped that around the stitches. You would go in backwards. Like the next stitch, you'd go from the back side and then go back over this way and then go from the back side and bring it over this way, come from the back side and go over this way instead of just pushing it straight through. And at that third point, then I was happy with how much of it was showing and how it made the top of my bowl look. So because before that, I wasn't happy. So that's the thing. You just play with it until you say, you know what? It's done. Like I played with this top until I said, you know, it's done. I still think I need to do something with these. What I'll do with them, I really don't know. I need to do something with this and I need to finish this. So it all takes time. I don't know that I'll come back on and do any more with this with you. I did want to show you this and see if it would work, which I'm very happy that it did. But I will probably, when I get it done, which goodness knows when that will be, I'll show you. I'll show you how it looks here, and I'll show you what I decided to do. And, you know, I may or may not decide to do anything with those. It's not that obvious. I know it's there, but it's not really something where people are going to go, oh, look, there's a little white spot right there. You missed it. So, and if they do, well, it doesn't really matter because I made this for me. I made it to sit on my table to collect whatever it may collect. And, like I used this one as I was making these flowers. I tossed them in this little bowl because the little bowl was sitting next to my chair so that I could finish the inside. And instead of that, it became my little vessel to hold my flowers. So that's, I really do like how this one has turned out. So, but thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. I will try and make sure that I don't miss weeks, but now that it's summer and there is a lot going on, there's a possibility that I might. But I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to disappear, hopefully, knock wood. I hopefully am not going to disappear like I did before. So thank you very much. And if you want to make sure you don't miss my videos, click the bell. That way, if I miss a week, you'll know that I'm back the next week. It'll let you know that I am here. So again, I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.